Yeah, he did.
Oh, it's
So
my.
if we leave,
I'm dehydrated, he's overhydrated.
According to the clock, we didn't take any time.
TJ, what kind of batteries does that use?
Didn't we talk about that last time?
And about for the last
10 o'clock?
I think every
Just tell me I'll bring it to you.
Reminded me, I got it.
No, you said it to me 2 months ago.
Write it
I don't
down.
think I acknowledged. I know you said it, I guarantee.
Yeah.
Still here.
All right, are you ready?
Oh my gosh,
All right.
just right there. Dang it.
All right, we're reconvening at 8:35, February 21st, 2018, in executive session. All members present.
Texas.
Yes.
We're good up
All
here.
right.
Yeah.
Should come from it.
All right, so now that brings us to student performances. Any student performances?
There are none.
All right, that brings us to open forum. Do we have anyone signed up for open forum that's still here?
they left, so none.
Everybody left?
Everybody left.
I thought you signed up.
What?
Didn't you sign up for open forum?
What's open forum?
Okay, never mind.
Oh,
That
I
brings
want
us to 7.0 consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Call for the vote, please.
Mr. Allen,
Aye.
No.
Ms. Combs,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Swayze,
Aye.
Mr. Anderson.
Aye. That brings us to board and superintendent comments. Mrs. Superintendent, sir.
First, I want to congratulate our winter, it's actually more like late fall, winter sports teams. They did a nice job this year. As you guys know, we had 3 wrestlers who went to state. One of the wrestlers went to the second wrestle back round before he lost. And our school actually scored 4 points. And now unfortunately, they show you the scores for all classes. They didn't, so I didn't know how we did as 1A. I looked at you, I don't know if you guys saw it, but we were like 150th in the whole state. Pueblo seems to have some rough wrestlers. Pueblo Central and Pueblo East were in the top 5 going into the second half of the final day. So the other is just another thank you to staff, because when we have these delayed starts, they somewhat have to scramble because they have lesson plans for the whole day and try to still get instruction in. I know they like it, they get to sleep in, but at the same time, they have to do some scraping. So thank you to them. And I think that may be it for the, now I'm trying to make it short since we went long. Right? Oh, I'm meeting on Friday with the trade wind folks at 11 o'clock to see their letter. And we'll find out what all the things are they can provide.
I'm going to try to make it, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
If you can, you're welcome to.
Where's that meeting at?
They wanted to meet in Parker, because that's where I live, but the gentleman who works for him, he lives in Littleton, and Dennis Heisey, if you guys remember, he lives in Colorado Springs, and he's their local rep, and so it's the middle for the two. Because I said, I'll go wherever.
So where's that going at?
It's going at FICA, F-I-K-E, F-I-K-A, it's a coffee house on Main Street in Parker.
Oh, it's in Parker.
Yeah.
Oh.
That way Dave doesn't have to come all the way down to Colorado Springs.
Is that it, sir?
That's it.
Okay. Ms. Combs.
I
Comments?
just want to say that the Spirit Night went great, so I want to congratulate everyone that was participated in putting that on. I think the raffle went great, having that, and then getting the elementary involved with the cheerleading. I appreciate that, especially with my daughter being 4th grader. She loved it. And so I just want to say thank you for a successful Spirit Night, because I enjoyed it myself and my family did, coming out and supporting the basketball team.
That's it.
Yes, that's it. I'm done.
Mr. Treasurer, sir.
No, long enough. I'll save mine.
Mr. Secretary. Mr. Vice President.
No.
Not even you caught doing good award?
Not tonight.
Okay.
I'm getting back to it,
Okay.
just not tonight.
And for the sake of brevity, I'll say no comment. All right, so then that'll bring us to 9.0, DAC update.
Yay, me. That's stand up. No.
There's a microphone right there. Go on the record, please.
Yay. Okay. The 4-day, 5-day survey was not done. Dr. Smith said he sent it out, but nobody received it. That's not calling you a liar, I'm just stating
We had
facts.
some issues with publication, and it's going out tomorrow. We have it printed and
Very
sorted.
Thank you. Okay, did first draft of park rules. TJ is taking those back to the park board. Okay, we looked and approved next year's calendar. Class of 2020 was discussed. DAC feels it should fall under old graduation requirements.
Okay.
2 new members, Devine Kitchens, me, Juanita.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm.
Okay, I can't read your writing.
Okay, that's interesting.
Regards to calendar, spring break is the 3rd week of,
March.
okay, 3rd week of March. Is break for college or, it's okay, hold on. She wrote it again. Sorry, guys. So sorry. Spring break for college is 3rd week in March. HHS is 4th week. ADP students won't get a break. Okay. Okay.
Awesome, thank you. So, I
left something out regarding the graduation thing in my
Yeah.
comments.
yeah,
So the reason why it's intentionally out tonight is because I had been in touch with CDE because there's been an accusation by someone that is illegal.
yes.
And so I'm going to give you guys an actual CDE person's comments to it so that that doesn't get stuck out in the community as if though that was accurate.
Right,
But if it is accurate, then it's known that that was accurate.
and if it's accurate, well, then we know exactly what we have to do. Did he make that statement based on his law degree?
His research, quote.
Oh, I thought maybe it was a law degree. Sorry, sarcasm, it's late. The only thing I have for the DAC is, so when you guys talked about IKF, the graduation requirements. I understand we have that legal cliffhanger thing hanging out there. But you guys thought that it should stay with the old requirements.
For the sophomore class.
Right, for the sophomore class, I understand that. Even knowing full well that that will restrict their opportunities.
Of course not.
I think what the concern was with the DAC was that some of the parents feel like that the requirements haven't been communicated to them and their students as well, and they weren't able to plan their schedules for the new requirements. That was the feeling of that we got from parents and from the DAC.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions? DAC members? Awesome. All right, thank you. All right, so then that brings us to 10.01 policy review. You want me to field this one?
Sure.
Okay, so I had this really great plan. It was really great work, and then work got in the way. And I was out of town for more than 3 weeks between now and the previous board meeting. So between what little I did and what the secretary did and what the superintendent did, we're kind of sort of still on track for doing our comprehensive policy review. We're not nearly as far along as I wanted to be, but what we did get was a really good handle on what policies we did modify last year, but they didn't get updated and put on the website. So we have consulted with some people at CASB, and so the best thing for us to do is just to gather those up and post them. And so we don't need to take any formal action to repass them or re-review them or anything like that. We just need to get our ducks in a row and get them on the website. So we're gonna do that.
Yep, and in the packet, if folks went through an information update, they were there, but then they'll go on tomorrow.
So
I
they-
actually said by Friday, depending on.
Right, so all of the policies affected are in the packet, and they will be on the website shortly. as effective. So then the next step in this process is to go through, the superintendent and I set some kind of criteria about everything older than 5 years that hasn't been reviewed. Those are the ones we're gonna hit first. Just because, you know, we have some policies out there whose dates are pre-1990. And that's what's written on it, because that's when they electronically made it into a policy. And the date was before that. So,
And Dwight's done a lot of work as well.
Yeah, Dwight's done a lot of
We've
work.
been actual triple redundancy, because all three of us have done some of the work kind of similar.
and we've done a little, some overlap too.
But in total, it's in the neighborhood of 200 some policies that are in more than 5-year range, so.
Yeah.
What's taking you guys so long?
It took us 5 days to figure out that there were 200 policies that haven't been looked at in 5 years. So yeah, so once we get that list and a plan of attack, then we'll start divvying it up across board members to grab a few, 5 or 10 a month.
I got enough. You guys more welcome to handle it.
Okay, well, we'll wait till wrestling season's over and then you can have them all.
And we are going to be updating the tracker, which then the board secretary and the secretary of the board will have to make sure that we stay up to track from here on out.
Right. Anything to add on policy review?
No, it's an arduous process. But I think that, in my mind, we're at a good place so that we know what we need to do. Because I went through every single policy and looked at the dates, and I compared the dates on the website with the dates on we have somewhere else and made sure. So I think we're at a firm start for where
Pro
we
Bowl
need to be.
weekend, right?
Yeah, Pro Bowl weekend.
Pro Bowl, so
Yeah.
I'm not a big Pro Bowl guy.
Neither am I.
So rather than watch football, we sat down in my family room and
Yeah. We spent 3 hours crunching
Right.
on
Two
2 different
computers.
machines conferring. So I think we're at a really good spot. We know where we need to go, and we got a plan. So we're gonna get all that tidied up so that it
you'll
is
start seeing the
appropriate.
the policies come out next
Right.
month, we think. We hope,
Yes.
less work gets in the way. Anything else to add on policy review, Mr. Superintendent? No? Okay. All right, that brings us to CCC core staffing first read. Would you like to introduce this, Mr. Superintendent?
So the concept of this would end the next one. Just to share the concept, because the language may not be matching the concept the way you guys might want it to be, is that in the budget planning process, I feel it'd be important to have an agreed upon core staffing that we say we need to make sure we have this in place at both schools regardless of enrollment. And then based on enrollment and fund, well, enrollment dictates funding, right? So based on enrollment, then how should we staff the rest of the district? Which would go from paraprofessionals up to teachers. And so the idea of the first policy is that the board essentially is telling the superintendent, you need to utilize this with all of your managers and come up with a plan of attack you're going to take for the budget planning season. The regulation tries to give some guidance, but not necessarily you have to hold to it exactly this way. Because if it's guidance, that means if it's a year where funding is down a little bit, we're not stuck to saying, yeah, but here we said we have to hire 8 teachers.
But you have to understand that's definitely the perception.
It could be, so we can talk about the regulation in that in
Yeah.
a second, but I'm just sharing the concept. So then you have something memorialized, so you don't have a radical year, let's say it's a different board, different leadership, and they want to do something pretty crazy. And do a bunch of like, let's cut staff at Prairie Heights, so let's have a K-1 split, a 2-3 split, and a 4-5 split, that'll only be 3 teachers over there, and they're gonna have 35 kids a class.
Right. And then do the same over here at the old building.
Right,
Yeah.
and that'd be pretty radical, and that would be, so it's to create some guidance to say, you know, roughly, let's try to stay in these boundaries. So that was the intent of bringing it forward for you. There are districts that have this kind of place, but there are also districts that don't.
We couldn't find, certainly not in the CASB core policy
Right.
sample.
So as I shared, I put it, it's not a core, I put it in policy to hold me accountable.
Right, sure.
But it's in their practices, it's in the
Oh,
HR
okay.
department that they have it. So it's known internally,
Okay.
but I thought it'd be even better to step it up to a policy, at least the policy part. If you don't want the regulation, that's a different story.
Well, but the way the policy is written currently, it means nothing without the regulation. I mean, essentially.
True. Or it
The
can
policy is
say,
one
or it
paragraph.
can say the superintendent is directed to maintain a guidance document that's approved or reviewed with the board on an annual basis.
That would work too.
So, just my opinion, kind of tightening it up a little bit.
But see, so here's like my concern. So I'm looking at the regulation and you show right at the top, below the line positions, principal, AP, dean. So according to this math, I'm supposed to have a principal, assistant principal, and a dean at the high school,
Actually,
or at the junior, senior high school.
it becomes a choice, and that could be something that can be put in the guidance document. It just means that if you're at 120, that's when you're eligible to have a dean. And don't come to us with 2 deans, you're eligible to have 1 dean. Or if you hit 240, you're eligible to have an AP, so please don't come to us until you hit that number. Unless they're gonna-
Regulation, nowhere says eligible.
Right.
Well, we could throw that in there. I initially put guidance, but after talking with Randy, he shared the
These
language.
ratios, it says right there, these ratios are simply guidance and always dependent on funding.
But if you want to put that in, that's fine. I'm not tied to necessarily these actual numbers. I think the important thing for us more than anything is the classroom ratios,
Yeah.
to make sure that we're okay with that.
Yeah, I've actually read a couple of studies on classroom size, and actually classroom size, according to most of the studies that I read, is a very, very small factor in it.
It's 16 is actually what they say. If you have less than 16, they will see significant change, but
Right.
more than 16, it's not
Right.
significant.
Right, so if you throw your number out at 20,
Yeah.
like for instance, it's not gonna help us.
What we do
Right.
though is we market our district as a low class size district in our material when we go and recruit staff.
That's the meat of it right there, the above the line positions.
So I started costing out because I talked to Randy about it, and he taught me a little bit tonight. I didn't know how to do the conditional thing of saying if it's less than this but more than that, or vice versa. It's a value of 1 or 0 or 2, because I thought it'd be important if we share that, we can just play with it a little bit and say, well, what if we have 290 kids next year? How does this play out? What if we go to 220?
Right.
How does this play out?
Yeah, but to make your spreadsheet effective, you'd have to assign a number per grade to get the below the line, or above the line positions. Right?
Yes.
Mean like 1 first grade, 1 second grade always?
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that at the elementary. I think it's more important at the high school,
Mhm.
junior high, because you can do a combo class, even though it's not
Yeah,
highly recommended, but if we're in fiscal
Well, I mean, to
exigency,
truly
we
have a
might have to
playable-
go to that.
Yeah.
Of course, when you go to exigency though, then I think your policies almost have an option of being waived in
Yeah.
scenarios, so.
Sure.
How does this differ, because as I'm wrapping my head around it,
Mhm.
and I attended all the meetings on the budget last year, how does this differ from your organizational chart? Because last year you talked to us, I'd rather talk about FTE than positions.
Yep.
And it seems this year, what's caused you to change your thought process on how to do it?
So this is still FTE based.
Yeah, so if you look, especially when you look at the above the line stuff, go to the next page, that's all FTE based. It's kind of hard to do the below the line stuff at FTE, but you can get there.
You can get there. Again, it would be a guidance.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, well, we've staffed it, and now some people would like to have we have 3.2 FTE left. So how do we divide that up between paraprofessionals, or do we hire a teacher, which we do right now anyway? But, you know,
So my real question is, how is this any different from what you came up with last year?
Well, what he came up with last year was just a budget development process.
Right.
No, but
This
yeah,
would be board guidance too.
What I did last
That's
year,
the
all I
difference.
did is I identified FTE. And
Right,
then-
you let the staff come in and they picked, if I remember correctly, first you identified FTE, and then you had all the staff come in and say, what positions would you like?
Right.
And that was the next phase of the document.
And what I
And then
did
it
is I
came forward.
essentially did, these are the below the line positions.
Right.
And I set them off to the side, so we have this much FTE, we're gonna take away K, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So what we could play with was that equivalent of the Buffalo line. part.
Right.
So this essentially matches what you did last year, but in a different format.
And it puts more ratio in place and dependent upon, as a guidance. But every year, we try, especially this last year, we try to staff based on what our student data is telling us and what staff feel from that previous year, what we need to address. And that's what you saw in that chart. And they prioritized. We need, at elementary, they wanted to have a full-time paraprofessional, just a rove. But then, like, number 3 was to have a math interventionist. But so in the end, we chose the math interventionist, splitting FTE, and not the full-time para-rove.
Let's say you can still work that same kind of process within the confines of this policy and regulation.
Right. So to your point, though, what you guys would want to talk, it's a guidance.
Right.
As up above, it's pretty much saying, at our current enrollment, there will be a principal, either an AP or a dean, which is a new position this year, as well as a social worker, which is a new position this year. So it's tying those in. So that could be something you want to discuss. Again, it's only guidance. I mean, we have to do it that way.
And then isn't our social worker this year half-time provided by BOCES?
She's full-time,
Oh, she's full-time?
provided by BOCES.
This is through BOCES.
Yeah.
So would, under this direction, would this be somebody that we employ ourselves, or would this be through BOCES, or either?
It could be it's an equivalent of.
Equivalent, okay.
Ed, how do you feel about all this? You good?
Oh, I'm good. Yeah.
So with the math, you're going to teach me how to do this.
Yeah, I'll teach you how to do it.
I will
so-
then send it, and then you guys can manipulate it, because we really do need to make sure we don't accidentally have a hole.
Or break the bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
And again, that's whatever language to make sure it's understood, it's just guidance sort of.
Right, I mean,
It's not
it's
required.
clear in there, but it's very clear in the first paragraph of CCCR in the regulation. But it's just, I don't know. I know. Well, that's the regulation. If you look at the policy, right? There's a must,
And that must is there.
must,
because-
but there's no shall.
The must is there because we have a policy on staff input, or collaboration. I can't remember.
Right.
Being involved, staff involvement in decisions.
Mhm.
So that way I can't do it on my own, come to you and say, here's what I said.
Right.
Because you can ask, hey,
So I mean, it's a fairly benign policy because there's no shalls and it's, for all intents and purposes, I mean, you might want to do a little more research and add the additional cross-reference to that policy that you're talking
I
about.
just put,
You know what I mean?
for your regulations.
But, okay, Danielle, good? Triple C and Triple CR, Dwight?
Yeah, I would like to see the references. 'Cause I actually went out and searched, and I didn't find it in a single
Yeah.
policy laid out like this. So if you have HR, and I noticed that because some districts don't even have policies. A lot of stuff is boiled, so if you could get a policy from HR that kind of resembles this and shoot it our way, because I noticed we are set up a little differently than especially some of the larger districts. And I found one smaller district out there that didn't even follow the numbering sequence. They went section 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yeah.
So I'd like to just
So
see.
just so you're aware, and I got them from two big districts. We had talked to Mac, Cindy and I talked to Mac, and he actually shared what he used in Pueblo. And then a friend of mine is HR assistant superintendent for larger districts. So I'll look and see what's in the smaller as well. And if it's policy or off to the side.
Oh, there's no policies, I can tell you that.
Just hang
I
it.
checked them,
Okay,
and I checked the large ones too.
okay.
So that's why I was kind of,
Yeah, you can't find anything, well, Harrison, nothing.
Right.
Academy is very thin,
Right.
because I went looking too.
right, so.
Okay. Anything else to add on Triple C or Triple CR? Is there Director of Operations in Triple C?
And CCA, and Triple C.
I think we just wrote TJ out of a job in CCC. I don't see him anywhere.
Building leaders and department supervisors. I would not write TJ out of a job.
I know, because he's got a really nice Kimber. But anyway. All right, CCA org chart.
Haven't shot in 6 months. Killing me.
CCA, organizational chart. What are the significant changes from the old one?
The addition of the dean of students and changing to director of operations instead of having maintenance set out separate. And then because the board secretary right now and my executive assistant and the principal secretary are the same, I put an asterisk by the 3.
Okay.
I don't think anything else changed then.
Okay.
Nope, that was it.
Questions?
And also calling it Director of Human Resources and Business Services.
Yes, I did notice that. Anybody, anything?
How about the para that falls, the para that helps, the part-time person that
True.
helps with business services is
payables.
listed for payables.
For payables,
That's kind of an important part of our.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, new paradigm.
we can, if you want, we can just accept that upon that edit being made.
Right, 'cause that's
Well, I
a,
mean, this is first read, so.
that's an important shift in how we do business, is getting that extra person in there.
It is, you're right. Thank you for saying that. And I just used your head.
All right. Anything else, anybody on board
Did I
chart?
wipe my hand out?
All right, academic calendar, first read. I hear this a little bit contentious.
I don't know how contentious, because I started them off and then I left, so I'm looking to you guys. Was it contentious? Would you use that word?
I didn't feel any. I didn't feel
I
that.
think it is now the teachers reviewing what we came up with, because I'm on the committee. We've had some teachers that are questioning the fall break. They don't really want the fall break, and then that makes us go over after Memorial Day weekend. And they are questioning the working the full day of school and parent-teacher conferences that night. So we're gonna have kids all day and then parent-teacher conference. One staff member commented to me that we are not a big district, so most of the kids that live in big districts, their parents live 5-10 minutes away from the school, so they could probably come at night after work. Here, we have parents that live an hour, you know.
It
Could
was
live an
also
hour.
working hours, you got exactly the opposite logic, but
Yeah, you can.
Dak was talking, when Dak spoke about it, the parents on the Dak committee said that they preferred the evening conferences. They had concerns about the long days for teachers, but as a parent, they said that they preferred the evenings. Just throwing that out
you know, when I was a kid, parent-teacher conferences were always at night.
So
Is that why we
process-wise, because I didn't get to kick it off with this, process is that the committee, they send it out to the staff to respond, went to the DAC and asked the staff, please don't talk, let the DAC really give you feedback. Don't say I like this, I don't like that. And then we want to hear from the board, and then the calendar committee will take all of those feedback items and they will allow and adjust and then bring it back as a second read for approval.
I mean, the only thing that matters to me is the fine print in the top right. Contact days, teacher work days. Those are the only two numbers that really mean, that I care about.
And I think
From a
we're
board
2 days off
perspective.
of teacher work day.
So-
Cindy?
Why do we
were
get
you
2
looking at
days
this
of
on-
conference?
Yeah, we're 2 days off of teacher work day.
That's
We
what
can't-
it says.
Conference.
Yeah.
Because it'll be in the evening. Right now we do full day, and so if you're doing evenings, equivalent of about half.
Most people don't come to their conferences anyway.
At Prairie
I've
Heights.
been here at Prairie Heights, I've been here, and you might see 3 people in here.
So if they do it strategically, they plan all their conferences on the first night and nothing on the second night.
Then you get to go home and watch American Idol.
Then they can go.
And that
Would you let-
October break, why do we even
No,
have a break?
actually, I asked them to
Irene, we're
stay
not off
kind
2
of
work days.
at a reasonable time on conferences before they leave because it's only fair. If I have 28 kids this year, that really is not fair that you only have 13. So it should
That's
be
true.
somewhat equal-ish time.
That's true.
Yeah.
Why don't we have school on the days and then conferences in the afternoon?
That's what they're doing.
No, they're doing it at night.
No, they're not, they're doing them at night.
Yeah, because it starts at 4:15 after the school day.
Yeah, that's a, you know what, that's a
We're
long
having
day for
regular-
teachers.
We're having a
2 days
regular
in a
day of
row.
school.
Yeah, regular day of school and
Okay,
then.
why do we have October break? Why do we even have fall break? What do we need it for?
You start in August, you get out in November, that's a long stretch without anything, whereas in the second semester, you have spring break, that kind of cuts it in half. Because really you don't have a break until November, you have a week off and you come back for a couple of weeks. So
Yeah.
that's when why it was first brought up, because it's a long stretch from the time they start in August.
Who's the break for, the teachers or the kids?
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
It's
I
given-
can see it.
yes,
Yes.
but that's why it was originally brought up, to have that break, because there's nothing from August 5th till
And a lot of the
November.
neighboring districts do fall break as well. am I
Yes,
correct?
and,
Yes.
They
and
do,
this
they all
last year,
do.
we did a 2-day break, and we discussed at the calendar committee how 2 days can be a little bit rough, because, a lot of kids will get pulled out, since it's just 2 days, they go do a mini vacation, and it gets a little crazy with just trying to get 2 days of,
Yeah, a lot of the
Working,
kids aren't
yeah.
here during
like,
that
we had
time.
quite a few missing when we had a 2-day week, so
Yeah.
that's why we talked about moving it to a full week.
So I just gave them some minimum parameters, and then it's nice for staff, in my opinion, to give the recommendation versus me. Of course, I could do it, but I
I mean, again, it's the first read, and you heard, is everybody?
But they do want to
providing-
hear, so some of them are here. Three members of the
Up here.
committee are here, so, and 4.
Yeah.
So
Mike?
what's one recommendation you might have for them to
So
think
the
about?
teachers are still having class, and then that night,
Yeah.
so I can't have no more 8 o'clock in the morning conferences.
Well, and part of the conversation
You can on
too,
Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think teachers will come in that Saturday.
Actually, on that front, there are always a few parents who can't do it in that time frame, and the requirement is it at least has to be a communication. So it could be by phone, or it can be scheduling a different time that
Oh,
week.
got you.
So
What
you
you
can
gonna
still
say
do it.
that? Ms. Augustine?
oh, I just, part of the conversation at the DAC also with that nighttime conference, was to make that, since it's a full workday after school for the 2 days, into, comping teachers for a day. So, and this is just the DAC conversation. So, for example, instead of having a staff development day August 20th, teachers' time would be honored for that nighttime conference. Does that make sense? Since it's 8.5 hours at night. And the conversation with the calendar committee, because initially we had the 18th was a work day and the 19th was conferences, was just that we didn't know what the attendance would be like, because then people would be on their mini vacations. And like Alyssa said, that 2-day week was not good at the high school level. And elementary school was kind of on the same page too with that.
Did we look at potentially having like a nighttime on a Thursday and then a daytime on a Friday with no school on that Friday? Did we look at that?
We discussed that at DAC, we can look at it.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm not trying to solve the problem, I'm just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
any idea is helpful.
One of the other things we did is you did it for at least at 2, so
Is what
the
did you-
staff could eat from 2 to 4, and then you go 4 to 8, 2 nights in a row, and then it's a full day as well.
You have it in your head?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll be interested to see what the end result is.
Any other feedback? to the committee?
I just think that's 2 long days in a row for our staff, and it's asking a lot.
How many parents do you get in here, Coach Decker, when they come in for conferences one day? You get very many of your students' parents?
Well, what I learned is if you give everybody A's, they don't come.
No more
I
A's?
probably have averaged
There you go.
about 18 to 20, but then you have some that have multiple students.
Students.
Yeah, because there'll be stretches where we don't have anybody, but we've had some stretches where we have quite a few. It's probably, I would say for me, average about 18 to 20. I know middle school gets a lot more.
I was getting ready to ask Ms.
Yeah, I'd
Conklin
say
next.
about, I'd say just over 10 of that, around 30.
Maybe at night it would be better then.
So 30 for you is somewhere between
That's about
30
a
or
third.
a third to a half. How about what's
Yeah.
20 to your load? Because it kind of goes straight line.
Yeah.
Probably about a fourth.
And I can't speak for the last parent-teacher conferences.
In elementary, I would say 90% come to
Yeah,
conferences.
over
and
there
10
all the time.
either do a phone
So
call
is that
or
maybe-
another day.
So nighttime probably would be a better way to go.
Could we
Except don't play with
incorporate
me.
like a refreshment / like maybe an art like, you know, an art show, or do something, incorporate to where we might get more people wanting to come in, and if they do come in, then if like their kids get snacks at least, or So that way the parents that are like, dinner and this and that, like, they're not,
What incentives have you guys done in the past? Even there? If any, you did
Well,
personal
we
invitations
do
last
Yeah.
year.
And postcards and things like that. We do have snacks, we've done that before too.
Maybe the park board could throw up a spaghetti dinner fundraiser.
While they're mounting the new electric sign out front.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound right. It is a Marine.
Installing.
It is a Marine.
so it'd be good to play with it and see what.
So, yeah, lots of ideas.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't have a problem with it
Can
personally.
I just real quick, would you guys wanna do the nighttime here? For me as a parent, when I come here for parent-teacher conference, because there's no scheduled time, sometimes you run into, let me go see this teacher, but now I have to wait 45 minutes to an hour. So, okay, let me go see this teacher. But then I
So
have to
actually
wait.
schedule a time?
So if you're gonna do the split nights, especially for me it would work. 'Cause I have to get up at 4 in the morning, I don't wanna sit and wait to
Right.
Yeah.
just sit and talk to a teacher for her to give me 5 minutes of, because good. Now I waited 45 minutes. You could just send me a little postcard and email for that.
So lots of good ideas on how to manage it.
We will hear from staff and want to hear from you guys on this. It goes one way or the other. You can start earlier in August, or you can go after the holiday in May. Do you guys have any feedback as they wrestle with that one? Because they'll probably hear from staff both sides.
I don't have a preference. I mean,
What are the impacts?
What do you
Their
think then?
seniors would be done on Saturday. They wouldn't come to school those last 3 days. Because
So the 28th, 29th, and 30th, those are the ones that people are having an issue with.
What's
Yeah,
after
because
the,
we started
After
a
the
week
holiday.
later in August, we started the second week of August instead of the first week, so that would take us to the last week in May. And seniors wouldn't be there for that last week.
Fine, leave it like it is, I'm, nothing wrong with it.
what is, have you got input from parents on that? Because that's,
Other than what the DAC has.
because that holiday is a big kickoff of summer.
Yeah.
And what I would hate for us to do is people were saying, well, the seniors already aren't there. I know they're just cleaning out their lockers and erasing their notebooks. I'm just gonna pull them out and we're gonna have a third of our kids here that last week.
You're right.
What
You
happens
might
with
not even have that.
Do the parents, I mean,
Well, you really can't do anything at that point.
okay.
You're right. Attendance wise,
all right, but so then that's a failure. I mean, if that really is something that ends up happening, then that's just failing to plan properly. So I mean, I don't have a problem with starting earlier. I mean, if that's what everybody else wants to do.
I'm just curious what you got. By the way, in terms of parent input, we'll be doing the district newsletter next week, which will ask people to go to the website to see it and give feedback. I don't know how many will do that.
But you know what, I would really like to have this and depending on how the outcome of the IKF thing.
Yeah.
Really like to have the DAC get as much input, attendance, really, from the people who are affected by these things, and have a DAC meeting before the next board meeting, so we could really,
I think they,
you know.
said they would be.
I think they're next one is on.
If we didn't move it up in August, that would put them graduating on the 18th and the 24th or the 3rd being the last day.
24th.
No. It would probably just still be, like, what's this year?
24th would be the last day.
24th would be the last day for August, graduation would still be the 25th. We would just not go 28th, 29th, and 30th. We'd start on the 2nd of August.
You take the week of the 6th in August and just put it back.
So the seniors don't get out any earlier than the others? Well, they'd love that one.
Well, they didn't last year either.
I know it, they complained then.
They complain all the time. As I told my daughter,
Can't-
just deal with it.
can't make
You can
everybody
call it
happy.
next year, you'll
Because
be
I think on this, after Memorial Day, I think our parent input would be passive, that we'll find out that last week in May.
Right, yeah, right.
I mean, that's
That
so we,
week.
Right.
Kind of like the graduation requirements conversation.
Right.
First meeting. Sorry, I didn't say
Exactly.
that. Don't come to any
and
meeting.
that's just the way the holiday calendar falls, which is odd.
I mean, if we stayed, as far as the calendar, if we stayed that last week in May, are we gonna have finals that week?
Yeah, that was the conversation.
Yes,
That's
I don't
for
think that's a
everybody
good
else.
idea.
Yeah.
Seniors.
Seniors, we could
Once you
do
bring that up. Yeah, I don't think so. I think it should be all shoved back up in August, as much as I don't like starting the first of August.
Because my only thing about that is I had work in a district that,
We want their
oh,
feedback.
shoot. Yeah,
We don't
I
want
know,
to
so.
persuade.
Sorry.
Well, this is my last feedback on this. I strongly encourage those of you on the calendar committee to have a good time figuring all this out.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any feedback? I know Ed, you're very passionate about this kind of thing.
No, this is good.
Okay. Danielle,
I'm good.
Dwight,
I'm good, as long as they, bring all the stuff into consideration and.
that same name, flipped over. Okay. Any other comments from the audience on academic calendar? All right, fabulous. Board meeting schedule BE-E. Any questions, comments? Why the question mark on November 21? Let me guess, that's the day before Thanksgiving?
Yes.
No,
No, actually, you're right.
it's not.
Then why the question mark?
Probably there's a typo.
Well, actually,
Or it could have been my question mark, it might have been our communication that you.
no, question mark is adequate because every year, the way Thanksgiving falls, we move that meeting. It's just this year, the way the calendar is, we don't need to move it. 'Cause
Well, we've always moved the December board meeting too.
I've calendared out, I already calendared out for the board meetings, and I had that question too.
Actually, the 22nd is
It's
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
What was the thing?
It is the day before Thanksgiving.
Is it this 19?
According to his fancy phone.
Well, it'd probably be just us there, huh?
Oh, it was the week after, I thought Thanksgiving was
So look, 1, 2,
It's easy
3,
counting, 1, 2,
4.
3.
That's Thanksgiving.
Well, right, because see
1,
where it
2,
starts,
3.
yeah, because the month starts on a Thursday.
Okay, so we
Yes.
need to move that one, I botched
To
that
the
one.
14th?
Do we need to move that
Or
one
to the
because
28th?
you plan on going somewhere for Thanksgiving? Because
may.
I always host
First
for
is the day
Thanksgiving, so
before
I don't go
Thanksgiving.
anywhere.
Well, the school will be closed and there probably won't be a whole lot of people around.
Sounds like a good board meeting.
That's what I'm saying, that's why I just said it, probably just be us.
Or during the board.
We meet over at Danielle's house.
And I don't know if I'm going anywhere or not, so it doesn't have to be.
What do you think, should we move it?
Should we leave it how it is? I'm not dressed
It's a little bit tougher to.
Well, it becomes an exhibit, so it goes in our policies
Okay.
in case.
Right, and if we change it close and somebody like Mr. McPherson decides he wants to come to a board meeting and he's a week late,
Yeah.
because we didn't advertise it far enough out. So I mean, I think if we're gonna change it, we definitely wanna change it before we approve it next month. So why don't you guys think about it?
Oh, it's the December one we don't have to change, I'm sorry, I got them mixed up. The December one doesn't have to change, but the November one.
Right, December one looks good.
Right.
Actually, you have a calendar 2 pages over.
Yeah.
No, I think we should change it, because the school's not gonna be open that week. I think. we should
December
change it.
19th?
No, in November.
November.
I think we should change it to the 14th.
But December's we can leave alone.
Or we could slide it back to the 28th. I don't care, but I think we should change it.
I don't wanna have a late board meeting in November and an early one in December.
Good.
We don't
Change it
have
to
to change
14th.
December's.
But that's early.
Oh, you're calling the 19th of December early?
It is early.
Let's go to the 14th then on November.
It's not the third. It can't be the third.
It's the third, let's wait, it
All
opens.
in favor?
Let me see your handy dandy.
No, it can't be the third. 7 days,
If
can't
you,
be.
if
One,
you
two,
don't
three, yeah, it is.
forward in your packet, you'll see.
Yep.
the
It is.
calendar.
I don't look at my binder.
Like I said, I remember one.
It's not in the
of
pack,
those.
it's not in the online packet though.
So,
The calendar didn't make your online packet?
Calendars are here.
Well,
It would be
Agnes-
preferable on the maintenance side if you didn't do it during the weeks. Because that's when they like to wax the floors and everything. And board meetings really kind of interfere with that.
And they turn off the camera system and have a party.
It's a
and
non-policy, so yeah.
Like hurling and.
You're not
It's a
supposed to tell
policy.
them
it is
that.
a policy, so, no,
I think we need to move.
we need to move to the 14th.
All right, so that would be our suggestion.
Is what?
Back into the
Move
14th.
November
14th.
to the 14th and then bring it back next month for a second read. Is everybody fine with that?
Yep, sounds good to me.
Okey dokey. That brings us to 11.0, revised administrative regulation GBKR, staff concerns, complaints, and grievances, temporary approval, first read. Do I have a motion to approve GBKR?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Okay, discussion. So, Dr. Schmidt, I think,
Why are we shoving it out so far?
well, so first of all, it used to be way longer than this.
Oh, really?
Yes, and then when we got elected 2 years ago, we changed it and made it super short. And super short just kind of isn't sort of working out very well. So we want to kind of give it a little bit longer, but not too long. And then also, if you look at step 4, that's where the real changes are. There used to not be.
And what you're saying is with the CASB sample, I thought
Yes.
bringing for all of you.
Have we got to give it to you guys?
Right, and so, right, so there's a new concept is that you, before, in our current policy, we didn't have an amount of time that the employee who's filing a grievance had to respond between steps. So I could file a grievance at step 1, get denied, let it sit for a year, and then take it to step 2 a year later. That would be perfectly allowable by the current policy that's out there. And we don't feel that that's beneficial to the employee or to the district. So Dr. Schmidt and I kind of sort of came up with these changes. You know, obviously we use the core policy that's on the CASB website as kind of a framework, but our numbers are smaller than the core policy at CASB.
No, theirs is too far.
And we changed just days to clarify, to be clear, so we made it work days.
Work
So when you
days.
actually say 8 work days, it's almost the same as saying, actually, it's like 14
Yeah.
days, because it's 2 weeks.
Right.
Right.
And
Which is where you guys can talk about changing
Right.
those values.
and then also there's a line in there.
Step 4,
Well, hold on. Well, in the core policy one, that's, you know, you should attempt to resolve it in each step, but no, at the sooner than your mandatory time frame, that kind of thing, you know. So you can solve it in 2 days,
Don't
solve
let
it in
it
2
drag
days.
out, get it done as soon as possible.
Yeah. Or at least there was language to that effect in what I read recently. Yeah, prompts. So again, it's just first read. You know, if you don't like the timeframes,
I think,
No, that'll work.
well, okay, so let's just be upfront and honest here, right? So what we're saying is that basically at each step, in each one of these things, we have what equates to being 2 weeks for each step in the process, but with only 1 week for the employee to elevate the grievance if it's refused. Right, so
It's
that's,
already written up and already ready.
well, right, you
So-
just gotta check the box, sign it, and hand it to the next person on.
Go to the next one. so-
But you gotta make that decision, right? And sometimes it's not easy to make that decision. You need to go talk to people, think about it, stew, whatever. I just wanna make sure that everybody knows that up front. And also, I think we might wanna, I don't know if we can implement this in
Okay, I got one
policy or
question.
not. Sure.
I got a grievance against you.
Yeah.
I take it in, 8 days
Yeah,
to resolve it. You give it back to me in 4. Now, I got 4 days to take it on to Dwight, right?
right.
right,
I can't wait your 4 days
You don't get
also.
the rest of the time that I cut off the process. You don't get
Okay.
that time.
Okay,
it's 4 days after the answer.
so it's 4 days after the answer is handed to me to take it
Correct.
to Dwight.
so
Got
each
it.
step is equivalent of 3 weeks if you go the full amount of time.
Right,
So it
that's
would
what I was
take-
trying to figure.
It would
Make
take
sure.
3 months to get to the board potentially,
Good.
if it's strung out that late.
And I
That's what I don't
think,
like about it.
yeah, and so, but, I mean, that's the thing, if we want to cut that, we need to start, you know, I don't wanna come back next month
But
and then say, oh, okay, let's make 8/6, or, you know, whatever, let's
Yeah.
talk about that now, so when we come
I don't
back
wanna
next
make
month,
it
it's.
so bad that
vote
they
done.
can't get it done fairly and bring it to us.
Right, but at the same time, you know, and first of all, the distinction of workdays is critically important.
Yes, it is.
Because if somebody drops a, you know, if I give you,
Get an answer on a
if I give you your
Friday.
answer on the day before Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, work days aren't You got
work,
3
and
days
it's not
off.
work days, well, then you can't
Now
elevate
you-
it, and your grievance will be denied because you didn't elevate it in the right amount of time. So, work days is critically important.
I see we're missing a line in here off the CASB one that says, any grievance filed outside of this timeline shall not be considered pursuant to this regulation. That's in the heading of the CASB one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not seeing that in ours, and I think it should be, because without spelling it right up front, if you're not within these timelines, it's not gonna be heard. We're gonna
But-
be getting a lot of, by the
But
way,
at the same time, then if we're going to provide some kind of a penalty for the grieving employee who doesn't meet their time frame, shouldn't we then have some kind of penalty for whomever along these steps doesn't meet their time frame?
Sure.
Yes.
Maybe it just, you say it escalates regardless
exactly.
of decision.
Escalates on the expiration day.
So in all reality, if, let's say it was me
Yeah, right.
at step 3 and I just didn't want to deal with it, I could just let my time go and then just let it go right through.
But that would be an automatic, yeah, that would be. So it cuts both ways.
Yeah.
We need to have a timeline for the supervisor and a timeline for
Well,
the individual.
timeline for each person in the step to adjudicate the grievance is clearly in there.
Right, but
But-
without that little line
Yeah.
that says you're, so what,
Right,
if they stew over it too long, they miss out.
right.
But at the same time, if the,
And at the same time, if you can't
come to a resolution,
Let's say you're ready 4 days after
Yeah.
half your time, and you call them and say, hey, I need to meet with you tomorrow after work. And they say, can't, I gotta go straight to pick up my kid from daycare. And that's the same answer 3 days in a row, well, then that's no fault of the supervisor.
right. It'd have to be one of those crazy.
But it would
case-by-case
automatically
basis.
escalate if they can't ever meet
Yes,
by the end of the deadline. Right?
right?
Yes.
Does everybody agree? That's
I
the
agree.
way it should go?
Yeah.
Now, that just got me thinking.
Yeah, I
An
know.
employee could work that and be like, well,
I know.
I can't get on my calendar, I can't get on my calendar, so should we have something that says, if.
Yeah, but that's not gonna stop you, Mr. Superintendent, from walking into their classroom during the day, handing it to them and say, here's my judgment, please sign it.
Right, but what it's gonna do too,
What I'm
Larry,
saying is if they don't come, shouldn't that also be a dismissal of the grievance then?
well, no, what it'd do is you forward yours to the next one up, and they can use that.
No,
Because
no.
someone can escalate to the board
That wouldn't work.
by intentionally not
Yes, they
ever doing
can.
their part.
Right,
That's
And be
right.
like, well, I want
Or-
to escalate from the board.
Right, but then all the documentation will come to us.
and we'd be like, oh, you avoided him.
But then, of course, it's wasted your time, you have to put your attention to it.
I don't think it would happen that often. For something like this where it's dealing with a grievance, I would rather hear one extra than not hear it at all.
Not here any.
Right, because with all that
What do you think about that?
documentation, it'd come up to here, and we're gonna, unless it's really egregious, I would think the board is gonna go with what the
Because, I
first
mean,
person wrote, what the second person wrote.
Right, but
Well,
see,
I would
that
like
would definitely be,
I'd
that'd
like to have
definitely
an
be
incentive
something.
to have to do it. I can actually tell you, there is an individual, there are 2 individuals on other scenarios, and one of them outright uses that to avoid having the meeting.
Right.
Yeah, then they'll have a meeting with us, and we'll be very pointed with them about what they're doing.
But then they get to roll for 3 months and spread the word and whatever they want to
What if we
do.
put something in?
I agree with you.
We need
gotta
every
be something.
reasonable
Yeah, it's just something they
effort
don't need it to.
must be met, or must, every reasonable effort must be made, you know, for the, whoever, step 1 to do their part, both
Yes.
supervisor and employee, you know what I mean? We've gotta have some common language to say, look, no, you can't just sit back and coast.
Right.
That's not going to work.
The top stuff up there, should we have that on?
Either
That's what I'm talking about.
On step 1 or above it?
Above it, above it.
Yeah, we've got, that's what Dwight was just talking
The
about.
very
no,
first
all that-
sentence,
We already have
not
it
the
in
very
the-
first
Most of it.
sentence though, because it's like, we don't need to.
No,
encourage.
not that one,
Right.
right.
But, so here's something I think that we need to be clear on, Dr. Schmidt, is that because we're changing this, okay, that by default cannot apply to any grievances already in the system.
Well, yes, because that's already been registered.
Okay. So even if somebody, like, right now files step 1 grievance, it's not under this new policy because we haven't voted yet.
I think we would lose it in court.
Right.
Right.
And if we auto roll them, it wouldn't be 3 months, because it would roll right to this, on the 8th day, it would skip the 4 days and
That's
roll
true.
straight to the
It'd be
next
2
person's. And they're gonna have their,
Good night, Alyssa.
realistically, if I was the person and Miss Van had a write-up and they never came to talk to her, and then it came to you, I would think in good faith, you would have your write-up, your answer to that grievance ready in that same afternoon, so then their 4-day clock starts again almost that next afternoon. So by them failing,
Of course, it also depends what they bring to the meeting. That
right, but by them failing to meet with you, it actually compresses it. It doesn't expand it. It would compress it.
You mentioned a sense at the
Good,
beginning,
yes.
meet the timeline and the grievance is dismissed. So I guess that covers this, that if they couldn't hold a meeting, then the grievance is dismissed by that first sentence.
That
or something.
first kind of.
Or
And then-
filed outside of this timeline. It's a grievance filed outside of the timeline. So what?
Maybe I'd say grievance filed outside the timeline or timeline not met. And that would address.
Or when you.
Right, but see, then you
Because your
could
next
play the
sentence
devil's
is-
advocate and say, okay, well, I tried to meet with the superintendent to get his answer to my grievance, but he wasn't available, he was up in Denver testifying at whatever.
Show me your
blah, blah, blah.
communications where you tried to do that. And it needs to be more than just one time at 8 in the morning,
Yeah, but I think,
Saturday.
again, I'd fall back on those. If anybody tries to roll it, you could actually compress their grievance time where it comes to the board quicker. Because you don't have to wait your 8 days to
2, 4, 6,
answer.
it would be 6 weeks.
You don't have to wait your 8 days to answer, because you would have her answer, which would probably be your answer, because they never accepted her answer.
Right, they wouldn't have anything to add to
Exactly, nothing to add to it.
because it's automatically coming from her to you, or from you to us, there's nothing new for them to add, because
I'm just saying, if it goes past the principal, I have to take my time now to try to meet with this person, when they've already messed it up. And then if they don't like it, because they're just hell-bent to get to the board anyway, then they can not schedule time to meet with even if they don't even want to, and it comes to you guys. I don't think, because our intention here is, he says up here, start with the lowest possible administrative level. Our intention is communicate.
Right. And, well, I mean, the thing is, if you have somebody who, pardon the phrase, is hell-bent on disrespecting their supervisor or their boss's boss, they're gonna figure out a way to do it, whether they're filing a grievance or not.
Well, and
Right.
that was the issue we had 2 years ago.
Right.
That person didn't want to go through a grievance process. They waited to come to a board meeting, do it in open forum, and convince the board majority to approve an executive session that meeting. So they circumvented the process.
Sure.
And again, that goes against what we're trying to tell employees to do.
It does.
So I think that, to me, this is just another path of doing that exact act.
So then, we're not ready for approving this, I don't think, just because we've had so much conversation about prospective
I
changes.
guess it'd be depending on where we are in everyone's minds. I mean, probably want to hear from everybody and just get a verbal, where are we?
Well, and we know, I think we all agree that we want to add that grievance filed outside of this timeline.
Yes.
And you wanted to add some verbiage about timelines not met.
Right. And then we have the person, this is my note, these are my
Yeah,
notes, not
go
the
for it.
actual, but the person who sent the grievance, if they do not respond, then goes to the next step on that. So
But
that'll-
you said you didn't want that.
Yeah,
No, I'm
I
okay
thought
with
we
that.
agreed that if they didn't respond, then it would be
If
dismissed.
I don't make the effort to meet with you in my time frame, then that shouldn't impact you. You should automatically get to.
Oh, okay.
But if I don't file back, then it's just dismissed.
Right.
Like if I go to Ms. Van and she doesn't respond, I can go to you, but if I don't file back with you, it's automatically dismissed.
Right.
All right, yep, I agree.
If I say, I need to meet with you, how's next week sound?
And if they
And then
keep
you're like,
blowing
I have
it
a
off,
doctor's
then
appointment,
it's
that's not gonna
dismissed.
work.
Yeah, I keep pushing it off, keep
And they
pushing
say,
it
how
off.
about this? No, it's not gonna work, I can do it.
So then what's the standard, what's the standard for attempts
3.
to schedule?
I'm fine with that.
And then the third
Just
strike
get a
straight
sub
up.
for their classroom and pull them
Yeah.
out.
I mean,
Yeah,
you're the
Y'all got work
big
hours.
boss man, you could just walk in their classroom, drop it on the desk and
That's
say, there you
impacting instruction on learning, I hate to.
Yeah.
go. Passing period.
In the state, what we
Plus, it
do,
also makes it public, because I need someone to cover it.
with the state, what we do is we mail them a certified letter if they don't come to the meeting, and give them their judgment, and their time starts as soon as that letter's mailed. That's how the
Yeah.
state does it. I
As
mail
soon as
tons
mailed
of-
or as soon as it's signed for?
No, they don't, as
Yeah,
soon
they
as
come
it's mailed.
planning time.
As soon as,
wow.
and I mailed tons of them out. As soon as I mailed that letter, their clock for a grievance started, because I did my part. So if you have somebody that's not coming to you, then you gotta get an answer to them.
That's fine, not bad. I mean, if you got your response ready
But you
in
got
half
your
the time,
Yeah.
You say, hey, I wanna meet with you to give me my response, and you think they're gonna slow roll it, certified mail it.
What's also in that 8 days to meet. That's where I'm concerned.
What are you
You
talking
actually
about?
don't have to meet to share your response.
That's true.
That's true.
It's that 8 days to meet. So I'm, in those 8 days, I guess it's reasonable to say we give you 3 tries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you are unsuccessful, if you can't meet, then it's.
Now, I'm just thinking, I'm playing through those
Scenarios.
potential individuals. What if I don't respond until day 7, and I say, okay, I can meet tomorrow?
That's day 8, that's fine.
And it's just 1 day left. Let's say it's Danelle and she's got the flu, now she's out. Is that an extenuating circumstance that can go in here? Or same with the employee?
Again, I don't have a problem with, I don't think any of us have problems with extenuating circumstances, but the language of this does not provide for extenuating circumstances
I know.
right now.
Yeah.
That's the problem. It's
Give a
hard
thought,
and fast.
because you and I experienced
884,
scenarios
884.
that not everyone's privy to.
So within some of these scenarios, I mean, over here, for the most part, it's easy because I have a planning grade. And I can typically track them down. If I can't track them down one day, by the second day, I can track them down and meet during the planning grade. To make sure that I've met my obligations. I know with elementary, it's kind of the same type of thing. You can find a window of time where they're not instructing, where you can have that conversation. But it is accurate when he talks about there are some that will, had one just kind of like throw up my hands as I'm heading in a meeting and then avoided me for like 3 days. Okay? So that can happen as well, where you're trying to mediate and get it resolved and they do try to avoid to go to that next level. It's probably a little easier for us than it would be, say, for Jasmine or TJ, because the bus drivers are when they come in and then trying to catch them when they're not with somebody else, so that it is a private and confidential conversation. But like.
But does it really have to be a conversation? I mean, if you take the time to write out your response, 1-page letter, and 1 example, right?
Then you check the box, I do not.
No, and then.
We're talking about the front end. So yes, you need to give them due process. Take your notes, hear what they have to say, and then a lot of times you have to go, okay, well, I need to go talk to so-and-so, to, you know, is this corroborated correctly?
Yeah,
Well, it
clarification
really
of
happened
their
this way.
statements themselves.
So we're actually pressing ourselves to do our part in 4 days.
Right. That's why we want to give you 8.
On the response part.
Yeah.
And then the 8 days, yeah, you do need to have that meeting. And a lot of times they want to have.
So you really think it needs to be a meeting? You just can't handle those all thought out?
Up front though, when they get to share their grievance concern.
Oh, yeah, I'm
That's the
talking
front.
about afterwards, the second 8.
See, Danelle and I, we work almost 24/7, so we can do that. Now granted, in the future, you might not.
I'm not worried about you.
But I'm trying to be fair to the employees up front with the 2 weeks, I'm fine with that. I just don't want them to use it and act like, well, Danelle never could meet with me, or TJ just never could meet with me. And
Well, then how do you
They're
prevent
all
that?
adults and they need to take
I think you prevent it by saying,
I mean.
you have maybe 2 tries or 3 tries to set it, and you verify
Set it in
communication.
motion.
We're talking the
And
initial
clearly you
meeting.
want a
Yeah, that
resolution,
initial meeting.
correct?
Okay, so.
Because after the initial meeting, it can just be the firm and they decide what to do. Sometimes there's conversations, sometimes they're not. They just will check off and it's their responsibility, as you said, to take it to the next level if they don't with the written.
I'm just concerned about the funding.
Okay. The actual first part where you meet, not the second half where you meet to give them your adjudication.
Right, so she
Okay.
would, in that scenario, she lost 3 or 8 days because they avoided her.
Okay.
Well, that's on them for not taking accountability as an
Right.
adult, I mean.
So that's a
It
great
is.
point.
Right.
Well,
It
then
is.
I don't
We're
understand it.
saying you
If I
can
give
do
it to
Yeah.
Danelle and I got a grievance, okay, the 8 days should
Okay,
start.
that's why we're
there.
here.
If I avoid her,
You can
that's
do
my
that.
responsibility. That's
There's
too
some
bad.
amount of time,
That's too bad for me.
you know, so we're trying to.
But if they let
If
that
she's
time go,
avoiding
she
me,
gets dismissed.
then it's her
That's
fault
what
and
we're
I can
doing.
elevate
Yeah,
it.
if
But I don't
you
see that I should be able to elevate it if
So
I'm.
the language right here
avoiding her.
says supervisor principal has 8 work days to the meeting. So you switch it to say the grievance person
I
has 8
think
days
so.
to schedule
Yeah,
a
yeah,
meeting. Say schedule a meeting.
You have.
Oh, no, 'cause I can say
No,
schedule
no,
this
no,
to
no,
you.
not schedule.
I'm gonna duck you
To
so that it gets escalated up.
To
Okay.
facilitate.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That-
What do you think about that?
Outpatient.
Switch the responsibility.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah,
Because
it's
then it
still-
doesn't matter,
Event.
right?
No, yeah.
Then we don't have to put any caveats. What do you guys think of, Ed just brought it up, where instead of it's the responsibility of the supervisor, the superintendent, whoever has it, to make the meeting, it's the grievance.
Yes.
The person has to
There
make
is
it.
Yeah, if I got a grievance, I'm the one that wants to
Yeah.
And
meet
then for
with
me,
you,
then it
why
doesn't
should-
matter, because
yeah.
if they didn't make the meeting, then,
Yeah, but what if they know your schedule and decide to,
Put it on
oh, I will meet with you next Thursday. Oh,
and
by
they
the way,
do-
you're out,
we posted outside my door.
you're out all week next Thursday in Denver at a conference. And we know you can't make it.
Well, in that scenario, I think if meet is open, that could be a phone call. Right? They could be willing to do a phone call.
Yeah.
Or you
I'm
could
sorry to
also
keep you guys going so late.
No,
some language in there that.
So
maybe
I
don't
think
choose.
to resolve this, I think we should just go ahead and have our vote on this. And then you can bring it back next month, with the changes after you've thought about it. And maybe we'll sit down
Yeah.
and brainstorm this some more.
Okay.
Because there's a better way to do this, to avoid both scenarios we're talking about.
In general, are you guys in favor if I switch the responsible
I
party?
am.
I am.
I think so.
And if we switch that, then there'd be no need to have a statement up above.
Nope.
So I-
Could still put it anyway.
So out of curiosity, what's left for me to do between now and next month?
I just send a motion.
Out of curiosity, then what's left for me to do for the next month? If you guys have agreed, we switch responsibility. And,
Because I want to see it,
with that purpose.
I want to see it tied, see how it ends
Take a
up.
10-minute intermission, you can do it, and then, oh, I'm just kidding.
You do realize your evaluation's coming up in a couple of months, right?
Well, that's true. I wanted to put it in place because
I understand.
this is grievance season coming up.
Oh, is it?
Because I don't like how you did something, my evaluation's coming up, I don't think that's, so that's why I put temporary on it, because it could go in effect now. But
Okay,
We consider special.
No,
I don't like.
no,
having-
here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess, because I gotta use the little boys' room. And if you'll wordsmith that for us while we're out.
Okay,
I'm glad you're being a little voice and I gotta go to mental.
Okay.
and we have a cot in the clinic.
Okay, we're in recess for 5 minutes. That'll give them time to redline it.
Just so you know, that's how the committee
Where's-
works too, up at the legislative level. They
But
stop,
how
take
come your
recess,
projector's not on?
Converse on the side, and they come back.
How come your projector's not on?
Everyone loves it.
Well, if we're gonna need to see the verbiage.
I hope I
I hope my leg's stiff. I'm sorry to make this so long this evening.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am. I would like to be at home right now,
Randy,
watching the Olympics.
you know what time I have my first training, an hour away from my house tomorrow? 6:30.
Mm.
It starts at 6:30?
Yes.
You better start driving.
Go to the hotel tonight, wherever you're going.
Guess who the trainer is?
You. I'd go to the hotel then.
That's only an hour away, it's in Florence, so.
Well, you can see if they got a spare.
My in-laws live in Canyon.
Breaker one time. What's that, Chief? You and TJ go around comparing radios, bragging about who's better.
His radio's mesmerized. He's like a Mark Taylor. That guy was a radio fanatic.
Was he a ham?
He'd go to meetings on radio.
They'll be okay.
You want to help him? Because you have input.
I'll probably,
Might it take longer than 5 minutes? Think me?
because you know, split wording in these, if you choose not to, you just give the written response.
Right, yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Is what?
So if they choose not to meet on the follow-up thing, on the second half, then you just hand them the written response. And you satisfied your obligations as supervisor.
So they can still go forward.
Sure they can.
So they can
They can
circumvent.
always go forward.
Well, we don't want them to circumvent the system. That's my opinion.
Well, no, but I'm saying, no,
Okay,
you're,
I misunderstood.
right. So let's say I'm grieving, she says, you're wrong, pound sand, oh, I disagree, I'm gonna take it to the superintendent. Okay? I realize I'm wrong, but I don't wanna meet with you, because I don't like to shine. Right, the reflection? And so I avoid you. So we have our meet, I won't meet with
Give the
you,
written stuff.
okay? You get all the written stuff from her, I avoid you from meeting, I'm sick, I'm in Maine, visiting my mother-in-law in the hospital.
Your best
Whatever.
Maine.
It was, yeah, I thought it was the furthest place away from here, it had nothing to do with that.
Not for me.
And, you know, so I avoid you,
Yes.
so I don't even have the meeting.
Uh-huh.
You have that 8 days, and then you just document that I don't meet you in 8 days, and then you have 8 days to respond, right?
See, I'd like them to say, sorry, you're done. Kind of like
At the
with
end of the
courts
first
right
day.
now, right? If I miss a court date,
Right.
it's over.
So they don't meet with you in 8 days, then it's over.
Right, that's my.
Okay.
So even say the first one, they give you the written grievance, they hand it over, you're trying to set the meeting. If they choose not to attend any one of those meetings, then you have to basically build your response on the written material instead of the conversation and the follow-up questions.
Right.
And you'll just give the written without holding the meeting, but
Part of
it's
what Ed's
documented
saying,
right
but
here.
that's our responsibility to set the meeting, but why? If they have the grievance, they should be the ones responsible.
Right, but we need to follow. My
It
thing
really
is,
is a joint really honestly, it is a joint responsibility for the grievance and the supervisor, whatever left at that point, to set that initial meeting to discuss the grievance, data collection, et cetera.
Right, because you clarify points.
After that second 8 days, if they avoid you, forget that, just drop it on their desk and say, have a nice day.
certified mail.
Right, same difference.
No,
Have a nice day, and it's over.
And it's over because they didn't meet with you.
Yeah.
So they just didn't meet the timeline.
Right, but here's the thing is if you meet with them and then you send them a letter, and they're real quick about grieving it, it still could move up to the next level if they're quick. But you have that, whoever goes up to the next one has that trail of them not doing what they're supposed to do. Because I know within the state, many things are grievable, and even if we blow somebody off or they blow us off and we try not to do it, they can still grieve again over us. So we gotta be real careful that the person that's answering initial grievance doesn't just say no. I think it should go to the next step and they say no based on non-response of the grievant. Because then that takes that confrontation out of it, if that makes sense.
And we don't necessarily do certified mail, but we have somebody that is there as the witness for signature and receipt.
Right, but what if they won't sign for it? I mean, if they're,
I don't think we option.
yeah. Well, like I said, I've had people that have ducked me.
Yeah, but see, you're not signing to accept the
You're just
judgment.
signing the receipt.
You ever trust people or?
I know, it was, when I was in the Army, it was counseling statement, I can't remember, count the number of times people refused to sign. I said, you're not signing to agree with what I said, you're signing to agree with, that's what I said.
Right, oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, it's just like a speeding ticket, you're not signing that you're guilty, you're just signing you received the ticket.
Oh, no, you wouldn't have got the ticket if you hadn't already in some way inadvertently admitted guilt.
Hey, go to the little boys' room real quick, it's empty.
No, I didn't really need to go, it was a joke.
Oh, I thought you did.
So, I'm a police officer, I pulled you over the side of the road.
I
You know why I pulled you over?
have no clue.
Oh, he's just giving him time.
You don't think you were going a little fast back there through that school zone?
No, speedometer said 21 on there. I got pulled over by Steele, that, is everyone know?
Yes.
By that gentleman in Fountain, and I got out of it because he was wrong,
Doesn't
and
matter
there
if he's
was
wrong.
3 of us.
You have exactly the right tack in that.
There
Never
was-
admit guilt, but
Never admit
there's a
there
difference
was
between not
3
admitting guilt and not lying.
There was 3, I didn't lie. There was 3 vehicles, and I was the only one that was not speeding. The other 2 passed.
Okay, so what you're saying is that you duct tape your speedometer to 20? So no matter how fast you're going, it always reads 20?
Scroll it.
That's a good one, Randy. No, the other guys knew that they were speeding.
So you think that's bad saving?
Not that I don't speed, I'm not saying.
And you don't admit negligence either.
No, don't.
Right, so do you know how fast you were going? Yes.
Yes, I do.
Because if you say no, do you know what the speed limit is in that stretch road? Yes. Don't give them the number, but just say yes, because if you say no, then you're negligent, you're automatically guilty.
And be courteous and nice, I'm
Yeah.
not out of one of those.
I find it always helps to make them laugh.
Why were you in such a big hurry today, sir? I didn't realize I was in a hurry.
I drive like this every day.
That's what I said.
Not what I would have gone
That
Are
wouldn't
you ready
work.
there, Dr. Smith? Hey?
Yeah, I just changed the language, the first step, because it, or second, because it filled all the way down.
Okay.
So we can just at least look at it and say,
I mean, if you really wanted to prove tonight, you gotta do this.
And this other guy was two of us. He
We're almost done, people. We're almost done.
pulled us both over.
Like I said, 6:30.
sorry, we're out of the late part, by the way.
Sorry.
That's all right, I knew it was long.
It's not gonna be that.
Well, I really didn't think that
I did.
our part before the actual negotiation was gonna take an hour and 15 minutes.
I did.
I mean, I had everything written down. It's all Danielle's fault.
I figured I'd be home.
I told someone 20, maybe 30.
I figured I'd be home about 10:30.
Your curfew? What is the?
My daughter's like, let's go to the oh, probably 8:30.
Oh, my
Like
goodness.
every other time.
I knew.
Yeah, no.
No, not tonight.
I left the door and I said, it's gonna be late.
Section was here.
Like, okay.
Do you have any case stuff?
Well, you haven't even.
Salsa.
Oh,
Salsa.
I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt you.
That was given to me at
What are you doing tomorrow? Yeah, tomorrow evening.
that was given after the board meeting last, that's why you guys got it.
6:30 is when they're officially
I
starting.
think 6:30. Because remember how you got assigned to be the primary and I got assigned to be the alternate? Yeah, neither of us are available tomorrow.
For the
So
CASB,
we need a
BOCES.
tertiary for the CASB board meeting.
Or BOCES.
All BOCES board meetings.
Murphy's Law's kicking in.
Okay. So the superintendent can give you all the, or the, Mr. Secretary can give you all the details.
Click share.
They serve dinner at 5:30,
Click duplicate.
so you could go for dinner.
It's free.
You don't
Free
have to,
dinner?
it's free dinner.
Oh, sorry.
And then there'll be a packet like this, and it'll have my name on it, you just open it up and it has all the stuff.
Okay.
And you can
Can I
read
read
through
it?
it. You know where BOCES is?
No, but I can find it.
It's off the Circle
Here,
Drive.
here, I'll
You
give
know
you-
where Harrison
I
High School is? Off the Circle Drive? BOCES is that building in front of it. off the
Yeah,
Circle.
right in front of it. off-
So you come off of the interstate, and you make a right turn at the light.
It's Janitel.
I'll come up 85, 87, I'll
Is
come
that how you
up under
pronounce
the,
Yep.
the back way.
Yeah, that's fine, then you make a left to the Janitel.
Right here is this place. You hit
Then you make a
function
left.
that.
Yep, onto Janitor, but I have to make a right to turn on the Janitor from the outside. I can find it.
Well, no, if you come,
If you come up 85, 87,
Janitel.
you come in there, you're gonna turn left, go between the two hotels.
you just
Straight
keep one
across,
straight.
that's it right there.
I was clicking duplicate.
Right, that's right.
so you can see it as well.
Okay, okay, okay.
Right.
Right, because you're gonna make a left off of Las Vegas on the
Right,
Janitel and just
yeah.
follow it straight across.
Follow it straight across.
Straight across
the
circle.
street. Yep.
And the only advice I can give you is just to be you and vote the way you think you should vote.
Maybe it's the source.
Or how you think the board would vote.
No,
This board.
You're representing the board.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is, because there's gonna be things that are come up, and you're not gonna have time to try to brainstorm how you think each of us would want you to vote. So, be yourself, do your thing,
Got it.
vote the way you
No
would vote.
pressure though, huh?
Yeah.
Vote the way you would vote here,
Just always
Right.
say, hell no.
like
You know,
Dwight did.
I got an email about that.
Dwight was, no soup for you, no soup for you, no soup for you.
And then I got the email.
We just need to make a motion.
No, we just not have a motion at all.
Good job, Dwight.
Just, I'm gonna ask a motion, no.
That one doesn't
motion,
matter,
move on.
because I'm using
Yeah, I voted my
HDMI,
conscience.
I don't have the pin.
And then we've got.
Do you want
here
to
is
maybe
get
just
the
email it to
technology
everyone?
working.
Can you email it?
Does
So
everybody
they
have an
can-
email?
For what?
Ready to access an email? Oh, no.
I don't know.
My Google one.
All right, I'll just read it out loud.
Okay,
That-
Okay?
yeah,
Sorry
yeah,
about me,
yep.
non-auditory learners.
And so where are we changing? Just that first,
So
second
what I
paragraph?
changed up above, and we can wordsmith a little bit, Dwight, with what you have.
Oh, as long as you go with Caspi, that's good.
The second paragraph, if the grievance does not meet the grievance timeline, the grievance is dismissed.
Correct.
If the supervisor slash principal slash superintendent does not meet the timeline, the grievance continues to the next step.
Yes.
And then within the steps, I just reworded step 2. The grievant has 8 workdays to schedule and meet with their supervisor slash principal, followed by 8 workdays to be given a response.
How about followed by 8 work days for the principal slant supervisor to give a response?
Okay.
Work days. Yeah, don't forget work days.
Mhm.
8 workdays for the supervisor, principal to give a response.
Mhm.
If the resolution is not satisfactory,
The grieving can continue to step 3 within 4 work days.
yes,
And that's the same for all the step 2s all the way up.
it would go down just changing who.
Right. And that's all the changes you made.
Yes.
Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further discussion on GBKR?
Did you turn the recorder
Oh yeah, the recorder's on.
on? Oh, okay.
It's a little red light on it.
Okay.
I never shut it off for the recess.
Oh, okay.
I didn't read them.
Oh, yeah, this meeting's officially back in order.
Be fined $100 per day for making the supervisor wait. That takes me that step.
Payable to the
$800.
Payable to the board.
Yes.
Okay, any further discussion on GBKR? All right, call for the vote, please.
Okay, Mr. Allen,
Aye.
Ms. Cole,
Aye.
Mr. Smith,
Aye.
Mr. Swayze,
Aye.
Ms. Underwood.
Aye. That brings us to 11.02 superintendent contract. Do I have a motion to approve the superintendent's contract? Hearing none, we'll move to 11.03 junior senior high school principal contract. Do I have a motion to approve the junior senior high school principal's contract? Hearing none, we'll move to 12.0 information update. That's not how action items work, sir. We can talk about that at other business.
Okay.
So, the information update. Does anybody have any questions, comments from the updates that they have read? Anybody?
Got the standard line. TJ, I
I
really
know.
love how you
I love it.
do
I
your-
can't, it's, but see now, I don't know how much effect
Might
it
be
has anymore,
disingenuous
right?
now, yeah.
Oh, it's always appreciated.
I just like the way it's laid out. He's got his wish list for his different areas in the order of priority with amounts of money. It's
He's
beautiful.
just a big dreamer like the rest of us.
Yeah,
I'd like to say I really appreciate how all of our directors are really part of the true team working together and working through their departments to help the school to make the district run as well as it does. Because without you guys moving the pieces around and making sure they fit,
Absolutely.
it would be very difficult. So you guys,
and
thank
then
you.
Jasmine's updates with all the numbers, I'm just like,
My eyeballs start
my
twisting.
eyeballs glaze over. It's like to the penny, okay, got it, thank you.
I don't look at Jasmine's, I see him with Cindy's.
Well, I'm always I was with Cindy too, when they sent me the report, I submitted this reimbursement, I was like, can you make that go higher?
Right.
I know the answer's no.
Right.
I said, shoot for 10,000 next month.
All
Well,
right,
that's one thing I forgot to tell you, I should have said this. But Cindy did implement that new thing where Grant has to sign, everybody has to sign and I sign.
well, it's perfect. How you
Yeah.
gonna mention that in your comments?
I forgot.
Okay, so that brings us to other business, and I believe that the no motion to approve the 2 contracts warrants some further discussion, and that is simply, is the board, the superintendent's contract is the only contract that's reviewable by the public. And since we kind of sort of just negotiated it tonight, we didn't really feel that there was enough time for the community to have exposure, review of it. So that'll be on the actions for next month. And the same thing kind of goes with the principal. We gave the superintendent a window, and he has full authority to negotiate within that window with the principal, and we'll see where that lands. And hopefully, assuming they can come to some accord between now and then, that will be on the agenda for next month. But that will not be public. The principal's contract will not be public. So, now do I have any other business?
And I'm assuming procedurally, that can be in the consent agenda with me maybe attaching her contract with it.
Her contract can definitely be in the consent agenda.
Yeah.
I
We
would
don't need
like
to
to
have an
know,
action item.
I would like to know where you guys land.
Yeah, I think we said 12 years, 12 years, $350 million contract.
No, it was $1.50, it was $1.50 an hour.
Wait, I'm in education, not
Danelle,
athletics.
$1.50 an hour.
for 12 years.
with no limit on contract hours or workday.
But that's every day of the year.
12 hours a
I
day.
didn't get the chance of 3-day rule.
But we are gonna get you a cot for your office.
But we're gonna
And
deduct
maybe an air
that.
mattress.
But we're gonna deduct that from your pay.
Yes, the cost of the constable.
Okay, so yeah, so the mechanics of that, I think it's totally fine to have our contract in the consent agenda and vote on it via consent agenda. Yours, not so much.
Right.
No, just in the other items, which I'm sure you guys are all aware of, but just in case. You did hear that Mr. G's dad passed away?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that.
Yeah.
You know, we
See
had a
Miss Hannah.
card going
I
around.
signed a card at
Either
the
see Miss
front
Hannah or
office.
see Irene.
We gave it out today.
Well, I have a card at Perry
Just
High.
mailed it out today?
We gave it to him.
Okay,
Oh,
our,
well, I
we
kinda
have,
sort of
Perry
signed
High
the
still
board.
has a card, if you wanna come, we haven't gotten Mr. Mr. Gilbert this card, so we have a card at Perry.
I kind of sort of signed for the board, so,
Okay, I like this.
I already signed too.
I mean, I put board pres, so I mean, that kind of sort of covers us. All right, any other business? All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So made.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
TJ, shut the lights off.